Not far from the Rio Grande River, in a highly active earthquake zone, lies the tiny town of Sierra Blanca. It's rich in beauty and loved by its residents, even though it's one of the poorest towns in the poorest county in Texas. 40% of its people live below the official poverty line. The majority are Hispanic. Sierra Blanca has no sewer system, no doctor, and very little political clout in the state capital, hundreds of miles away. In a West Texas long legendary for its beauty, tranquility, and quality of life, Sierra Blanca and Hudspeth County also fit a national profile of sites routinely targeted by corporations for toxic and radioactive waste dumps.
Every ideal characteristic seems to be found in Hudspeth County.
Hudspeth already hosts the world's largest sewage sludge dump, just west of Sierra Blanca. Run by the Merko company, this dump accepts trainloads of Manhattan's toxic and radioactive sewage. This so-called sludge cake is spread across thousands of acres, bringing New Yorkers' stench and diseases to the people of Sierra Blanca. Just east of town is the site for a proposed nuclear waste dump, slated to accept nuclear power plant wastes not only from Texas, but from faraway Maine and Vermont as well. If allowed to open, it's predicted to become America's national nuclear garbage dump. One longtime opponent of both the sewage dump and the nuclear dump is Bill Addington, who runs Sierra Blanca's general store.
See you, Felix. Mucho cuidado, eh?
1991, when I saw our county judge go on television saying that the people of Sierra Blanca wanted the dump, I went out to my house in Sierra Blanca and looked towards Eagle Mountains and felt a feeling of anger that the land and the mountain and everything living on it was being raped. And from that minute on, I felt a feeling come into me that it compelled me to do everything I can to stop those who would destroy everything that sustained my family here for 3 generations. And the threat, of course, is the radioactive waste dump. I never knew at the time how much that commitment and that, well, it's more of a, I'm being compelled to do it, I guess, how much it would cost me later.
At the 3 Mile Island, there's an unknown factor in the NRC. Everyone's an actor. It's a risky business based on opinion, and it can't hold water in the wisdom.
On August 6th, in 1945, the first demonstration of the power and destructiveness of nuclear technologies was made in the Japanese city of Hiroshima. More than 30,000 people instantly died, and people in that community are still dying today from the health effects. The waste that is being proposed for your community today, for this community, is a direct result of that kinds of use of nuclear technology.
We're based in Albuquerque, but we represent thousands of New Mexicans who for the last 20 years have been fighting the waste isolation pilot plant, the world's first underground permanent nuclear waste dump located 25 miles east of Carlsbad. I just want to tell you there are a lot of similarities to the situation here in Sierra Blanca and the situation about the WIP site. This is probably the struggle for democracy in this country, because you're hearing over and over again how we've been shut out of the process. We who are going to be most affected are not being listened to. So it's very important that we raise our voices here.
A few years ago, I started looking at Texas Cancer Data Center statistics on cancer mortalities, and then I requested some statistics on what was happening with the babies in the 4-county area around the South Texas Nuclear Project. And then I later coached a freelance writer and anti-nuclear activist named Betty Britt to do the same thing around the Comanche Peak nuclear power plant. And just recently, in May, Betty published the results of her research in it, and there were a lot of similarities.
What the women found was catastrophic human health effects near the plants, taking a tragic jump in the 5 years after the nuclear reactors were turned on. The number of low birth weight babies jumped 16%. Deaths from multiple myeloma cancer rose 63%. Breast cancer death leaped 59%, 3 times the state rate. Male deaths from prostate cancer near one plant rocketed upward by 290%. Texas state officials have already decided to open the Sierra Blanca dump and have begun developing the site. Unlike Maine voters and Vermont legislators who voted to send their waste to Texas, Texans have never had an opportunity to speak on the decision. Late in the process, on August 6, 1996, the first of 3 regional hearings on the dump was held in Sierra Blanca, ironically scheduled exactly 51 years after the nuclear devastation of Hiroshima. 2 state judges were to decide who could legally challenge the state's nuclear dumping plan.
The staff concludes that issuance of a license for the proposed project will not pose an unacceptable risk to public health and safety or cause a long-term detrimental impact on the environment. Judge, I just want to conclude by saying that we intend to be good citizens in this community, and we are looking forward to this hearing so that we can get the facts out about the facility, and we will be prepared to answer your questions and to work with you in any way necessary to assure the public health and safety for this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jacoby. We do appreciate your comments.
Tourists love Texas, and whether or not when they come to Texas they speak English, they all recognize this sign. This is an international sign, folks. It needs no translation. This means nuclear waste. If they drive through Texas and they see this on trucks and they see it on gates, they will be very, very reluctant to come back. It is a proven fact that land adjacent to or in close proximity to a nuclear waste site is drastically devaluated. I ask you, please, as judges of this critical issue, will you deny me and other descendants of landowners in Culberson and Hudspeth County our only source of future sustenance and, in effect, our very birthright? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
It looks like to us that maybe the legislature wanted a site that was large in land area, had very little political clout, very few people, and very few resources to fight the thing. So we think it's kind of been laid on us without any real input. And to remedy this, I feel that if the legislature put this upon us, if they would, the legislature would call for a referendum for the counties most affected by this dump and let us vote on it.
When somebody tells you, oh, we can only take the waste from Maine and Vermont, that is what they have agreed to right now, but they have intentionally left open a section whereby the Texas Compact Commission can unilaterally, without legislative approval, increase the waste from any individual, any compact, or any group of states. But what does that mean for Texas? What it means for Texas is they are shooting to the top of the list to become a national dump.
This is a decision that should be left up a great deal to the people of Sierra Blanca. I feel that the low-level disposal area would benefit the county in providing from 20 to 25 jobs as well as much-needed income to benefit education and other worthwhile county improvements. We also do not feel that the facility would pose any threat to our physical well-being. It is my belief that the silent majority in Sierra Blanca is not opposed to this proposed facility, but it is most difficult for them to express their views because of a lot of outside agitation.
It seems that we've been in a state of agitation since the Low-Level Waste Authority came here. How is it that Maine, Vermont, Austin, Houston Lighting and Power, Texas Utilities, New York City, none of these are considered outside agitators? I think that's a little strange. Let's consider for a moment what would happen to the engineering of this site and probably the location of this site in terms of geological considerations. If the ownership of this waste stayed with Houston Lighting and Power, with the University of Texas, with Texas Utilities, with every generator, if they were forced to keep liability, in other words, they own the waste once it is dumped in these trenches, I can guarantee you that the design of this site and the location would change. The minute that stuff leaves their property, it's ours and it's our problem. That is one of the biggest flaws of this whole facade, this whole circus that has been happening since 1983.
The proposed siting appears to be a result of environmental racism and may be geologically unsound, as it is an active earthquake zone and only 16 miles from the Rio Grande. And whereas safer alternatives exist for the storage of nuclear waste, such as above ground, monitored, retrievable storage. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Austin, Texas, that the Council opposes a nuclear waste dump in Sierra Blanca, Hudspeth County, Texas.
My children have gone to school here. They have benefited tremendously from some of the impact funds that have come in. And I can see this community prospering with those impact funds.
Today is the 51st anniversary of the bombing in Hiroshima. My husband was exposed to radiation. He was in the United States Navy, and he was 8 miles from the coast of Japan. Because of his exposure, we couldn't have any children. I had 5 miscarriages. And then, thank God, he gave me the opportunity to have more children, but the first one, the oldest one, was born with a birth defect. Her life has been 43 years of pain, of surgery. She's facing another one, and it's a 50-50 chance for her. This is what radiation did to us.
Nuclear radiation is deadly to all living things. There is no safe level of exposure. Only one radioactive particle is needed to damage cells, genes, organs, and the immune system. Children are especially vulnerable to its effects.
My parents are gone, and I don't cry for them anymore. I keep them in my heart, but I cry for the future generations of these two wonderful people. Their fate is uncertain, and it grieves me to see that some people don't look ahead of what is there for their children.
Right now, some people are just thinking of today, of now. We need the money now. We need to have luxuries. We need to have a new car. I believe that money is important up to a point for the basics. But do we need to have the trash, the waste, and the human waste to make a living? I want my kids to stand up and be proud of their grandmother, that she stood up for what she knew it was right. And I wonder, these people who are bringing this in, will they be able to leave something, you know, that is the kids are going to be proud of them when they find out that they were the ones who brought this disaster in this area, and not only this, but the other dumps that are around the United States. Will the children be proud of them? Will they say, well, my grandfather, my great-grandfather was a pioneer in this nuclear disaster?
Back about 5 years ago, they came to Austin to protest a new hazardous waste dump that was being proposed for Spofford, Texas. There were about 700 people who came in from Ciudad, Acuna, and it was a great success, and the dump was stopped. So she came here hoping that this protest could also help stop the dump in Sierra Blanca. We want the people who are in charge of producing all of the nuclear waste to think about what it is that they're doing with this in the long term, and to think about everybody's well-being and not just a few people's well-being.
One of the key organizers of the International Children's Marches on Spofford and Austin was Dr. Emilio de Hoyos Serna, mayor of the Mexican border city of Acuna.
Hoy nuevamente acudimos al estado más contaminante.
We are here again to protest the threat of further pollution to our shared river and border environment. As a medical doctor who has read the scientific studies, I know the proposed nuclear waste dump at Sierra Blanca in a known earthquake zone must be opposed on the basis of geological common sense, human health risks, and international law. The Sierra Blanca dump is an international issue. It violates a United Nations treaty of 1972 signed by Mexico and the United States. It also violates the La Paz Treaty between our two countries. Operation of the dump would pose a grave threat to Mexican national sovereignty and security and to Mexican-U.S. relations. The facts raise many ethical, moral, legal, and environmental reasons to oppose the dump. But the most fundamental reason is that we have an obligation to defend the global biosphere on behalf of the children of the future from whom we are borrowing it. We must respect this gigantic living being called Earth, upon the health of which our children's future depends. Our global biosphere is a closed system. What goes around comes around. Disposal in dumps really means dispersal into our air, water, soil, and our bodies. Ending production of long-lived radioactive waste and containing the waste already produced is the only responsible policy. After 50 years, no proven means for long-term containment of nuclear waste have been found. Other countries are applying the sensible interim method: permanently monitored, retrievable storage so leaks can be quickly found and stopped. Despite advances in this approach outside the U.S., proponents of this dump persist in claiming it is state-of-the-art. The radioactive waste, over 90% of it, lethal long-lived waste from nuclear power reactors in Maine, Vermont, and Texas, would travel to the site by truck on interstate highways. Liquid waste would be stored in absorbent materials inside fiberglass barrels. Various types of waste containers like these would be compacted and placed into concrete canisters designers hope will last 500 years. Spaces inside the PAT containers would be filled with grout, and the sealed containers stacked into unlined trenches. These would be filled with gravel, buried with dirt, and capped with a concrete slab under more dirt and vegetation.
I'm not against nuclear medicine. I'm all for it if it's going to help somebody to survive, to live. But what they're using in medicine, it cannot be compared to what they're going to bring to bury here. This is huge. This is going to last for thousands of years. Generations from generations are going to be exposed to it.
While citizens are concerned about health and safety, the nuclear industry is concerned about profit. The Sierra Blanca dumping plan is part of a wider picture. Years of the atomic age has created billions of tons of nuclear waste. Less than 1% of it comes from biotech and medical research. 90% of it comes from nuclear power plants. It's waste so corrosive, there's no way to contain it for more than a few years at a time. Much of it stays deadly for longer than humans have been on Earth so far. The nuclear industry has a problem. No new reactors have been ordered in over a decade. Investors have fled. Diehards hope to revive their industry by demolishing worn-out reactors and building a new generation of reactors on the same sites, with fast-track licensing that prevents democratic process. But where to put all that hot junk? Without cheap dumps, nukes, the next generation, will have a tough time being reborn.
So this arson happened in '93 when I was fighting both the nuclear dump and the sludge dump. Whoever did this was, I believe, connected to the dumping activity here in Sierra Blanca. And I would just say that these so-called people will stop at nothing to get what they want. There's millions and actually billions of dollars at stake here. I just want people to know that we all better start getting involved in our government. I was one of those people that never did saying that, oh, that's over there, or oh, it's the government, and what can I do about it? But we let this happen in our country. We let this happen. And if we don't start taking control of our country, these types of things that happen to me and other folks are going to continue to happen. People that are just trying to voice their First Amendment right to speak out against something that they see that's wrong.
Thank you, Judge Rogan, and welcome to our home here in Sierra Blanca.
Thank you.
And you too, Judge Sullivan. My name, as you said, was Bill Addington. Lived in Sierra Blanca all my life. My grandfather was a pioneer here in Sierra Blanca. We have the general store in Sierra Blanca. And the Class A waste I'm not too worried about. Class A waste are the true low level. The B and C class waste, especially the C class waste, I have a big problem with. These are ion exchange resins, poison filters, big filters, sludges. They capture radioactive elements that leach out of fuel rods upon normal generation and to get in the cooling water. They have the same elements, the same plutonium, strontium, and cesium that's in the high-level waste, but once it escapes there and gets in the cooling water, it becomes a low-level waste. And then it's destined for this dump. We have a farm directly below the proposed site on the red light, on the red light draw. The surface waters from this site would run into our farm. And those are buildings right there. Those are the farm buildings. It's the farm there. And then this is the red light draw.
comes directly from the proposed site. During heavy rains, it's in the summer that sometimes where 1 to 3 inches of rainfall happens. The rain comes sometimes 8 to 10 feet deep through here like a wall of water. The proposed site, a lot of the water flows from Grayton Lake that's near the site into this draw 16 miles from here and goes through our farm into the Rio Grande River. So it's, we are directly downstream of the surface waters of this proposed dump site.
This truck carries a piece of the shut-down Yankee Row nuclear power plant in Massachusetts on its way to a leaking dump in Barnwell, South Carolina.
The dump in Barnwell does not meet Massachusetts standards. It's a shallow landfill, it's unlined, which is what the NRC prefers in its guidelines so that the radiation can dissipate. They found it in the aquifer underneath it that those people are drinking from. But this is a minority community, it's black people, it's Native Americans, and we need to go down there and tell them that we don't want this stuff to come to your community. We tried to stop it, and we're sorry that we couldn't stop it, and we feel terrible about it. And we're going to do everything that we can to let you know that and to stop future shipments.
With over 25 nuclear plants scheduled for shutdown this decade, truckloads like this could become common on our highways. This is the kind of long-lived radioactive waste that would come to Sierra Blanca.
What we're looking at is a national map that I believe represents the kind of best guess as to which way the nuclear waste from Maine and Vermont would come down on its way to entering Texas and Texarkana. And it would come down through the bottom parts of Maine and Vermont and Massachusetts and in through Pennsylvania, unfortunately passing right through Harrisburg, which has already had its trials with nuclear radiation from 3 Mile Island, and then down through a little bit of West Virginia and Virginia, pretty much across the length of Tennessee, coming in through Arkansas and through Little Rock, and then down to Texarkana and entering Texas there. The waste coming in from Maine and Vermont and potentially other states up in the Northeast and the Midwest, where most of the 110 nuclear reactors in the country are located, would come in through Texas according to the map submitted with the application for the Sierra Blanca dump. Through Texarkana on Interstate 30, it would come down passing over Dallas drinking water supply at Lake LBJ and turn south and join Interstate 20 there along the southern part of Dallas and Arlington and Fort Worth, and come on out past Abilene and Big Spring and Midland and Odessa and Pecos, which is the most dangerous strip of interstate in Texas because there's nothing out there and people fall asleep all the time driving, and connect up with Interstate 10 here and go through Van Horn and then on into the site, which is 5 miles east of Sierra Blanca. Coming from the South Texas Nuclear Project, the waste would come down along the coast through Victoria and up Highway 87 and probably pass right through the middle of San Antonio to connect with Interstate 10, going on past Kerrville and on out here past Fort Stockton and Ozona and so forth to reach Sierra Blanca.
Our property begins here at the river and goes all the way to these foothills at the base of the Eagle Mountains. These are all the Eagle Mountains, and we own 6,000 acres all along that rim line and then back down to here to the river. It's a big rectangle. I've seen that special interest in money is what forms public policy in Texas and the United States instead of the people. I always have tried to work through the system, the legal, the political system, trying to stop this. However, it's become a few people with special interest that have very large money and financial holdings that have done these things to Texas, where the government would change people's lives and hurt them and make them suffer. And of course, not just us, but all life out here.
I perceive and I believe that the only way they'll be doing any remediation when this dump leaks is putting a cement cap over to slow the infiltration rate of the radionuclides, like was done in Barnwell, South Carolina.
I'm sorry, Mr. Addington. I'm going to have to ask you to let some of the other people who are here with you express some of these other ideas, and we need to go on to let other people speak. Excuse me. We have to give other people an opportunity to speak.
I've been waiting 5 years to say this, sir.
Contain yourself. Please. Mr. Addington, Ms. Addington has given you a few more minutes. Go ahead.
This is the West Texas Bolson. This goes through 3 counties: Hudspeth County, Culberson County, Presidio County, and Jeff Davis County, 4 counties. This water is the only source of drinking water that we have here. We do not draw drinking water from the Rio Grande. The dump is being positioned on top of this aquifer. My job and my responsibility, in my opinion, is to protect this aquifer from depletion or pollution, not just depletion. And pumping this amount of water is of concern to me, but first we've got to take care of a radioactive waste dump that's positioned on top of the aquifer.
This dump is meant to leak. The authorities' own documents show that after 100 years they know that the concrete will erode and that this is a violation of human rights. It's an act of environmental racism, and it violates agreements with Mexico and endangers the lives of everyone living downstream on both sides of the border.
It's not just a two-nation issue either. It's a planetary issue, because once it goes down the Rio Grande, it's in the Gulf of Mexico. And once it's in the Gulf of Mexico, it's all over the planet.
The World Court this year has decided that nuclear weapons are illegal. And that's a wonderful thing, because in the United States, somehow or other, we've lost track of the larger picture. That nuclear weapons are genocidal, that nuclear power creates the materials from which nuclear weapons can be made, and that all of this creates incredible nuclear waste, the problems of which we have not solved intelligently in this country.
How about solar energy? There's a whole lot of sunshine out here. How about wind? There's a whole lot of wind. Why not? Why is it that the industry that should come here should be one so toxic?
I am often asked by people that think seriously about this, well, what is the alternative? The answer is not simple, of course, but there is an answer. It has to do with reclassification of the waste by the length of its hazard, building surface monitored retrievable storage, stopping transporting the material around, and stop producing the waste, which means turn off the reactors.
But I want to live for the future generation, a clean, healthy place to live in, to enjoy the rest of their lives.